Alright, greetings.
Ahoy, ahoy.
Okay, so your topic was about having gun proliferation, mass amount of guns for people.
That's right.
Okay, what's your position?
That when you add guns, it um, doesn't protect an area as well as it makes it like more dangerous. What's a better way of stating that? There's a trade-off when you add guns into an area. You can like civilians can defend themselves with it, but at the same time it creates the danger of those being misused or like criminally or accidentally, and the misuse cases outweigh the protection, like the benefits of the protection.
So you're looking for a limitation on gun ownership for civilians?
Uh, yes.
So what's the limit? What's the parameters of the limit?
Less is better.
So is
The,
there
the
not
more limited, the more limited the outcome, the better the outcome.
so you're saying put a limit out there, the less is better, but you don't really have a number of limitation for people to have something to protect themselves with.
I don't understand that if that's a question or
Well, you're not giving a set limit. You're saying that there's too much, but you're not saying how much is too much.
the more you add, the worse it is. If there was a recommendation I would give people for how much poison to eat every single day, the recommendation would be very little, right? Like, because the more of it you have, the more it will hurt you.
So,
But why would
so,
I wouldn't put like a limit on that and say like, oh well, yeah, like 10 grams of poison is good, but like more than that will hurt you. No, it's just the less you have, the better. It doesn't make sense to say that it's helping in some way.
okay, so since you mentioned about the poison, you're saying that owning guns is poisonous to protect yourselves with. So, I mean, if that's the case, why not just eliminate it all? Why should anybody own a gun?
Yes, that would follow from the prompt that I have provided.
So, it's really not about having a lot of guns. The issue is just having a gun, period. Your position is no guns, period.
You could bring it to that ultimate state. However, it's not limited to that. A lot of people will argue that you can't like realistically remove everything, which is fine. I'm just saying that the more that you can do to control it, the better the outcome.
But your position is the position that you would support is really no guns at all to protect yourself with.
That seems to be the yeah, yeah. All of that follows.
So there's no person that's able to possess a gun to protect himself or herself with on a constructive fashion that would be good.
It can be good. The problem is that it carries with it bad. If I gave you a poison candy bar, you could be like, wow, the candy bar is really good. Oh, wait a minute, it's poison. But at least it tastes good, right?
Well, how is me owning a gun poisonous?
Because it creates a risk.
A risk of what?
Misuse, as described previously. Misuse of criminal, misuse of accidental. To name the main issues with it.
Well, just because there's a risk of something going wrong with something doesn't mean that it's outright a poisonous thing or a harmful thing. Because you can make that argument
I
about a lot of things.
I agree with you. If that was only the case, uh, then that counter argument would exist.
So guns in and of themselves aren't poisonous. They're actually neutral.
But what does that have to do with anything? Poison is also neutral. I wouldn't recommend people take poison.
Poison is not neutral. Poison is toxic in and of itself. Meaning that you if you
If you drink
mean
it, right?
meaning that if you
Like if you
use
eat it, if you consume it.
meaning that if you use poison, it's always going to be harmful. But using a gun is not always going to be harmful.
You could use poison to remove rats from your property. You could use poison to control pest populations.
Well, now you're making it equivalent to like a gun again. So now you're saying that.
Yes.
But see, having these things are not going to be problematic. It's the people that who you give them to are going to make them problematic. So it doesn't. That's why you couldn't give me a number on how little is too little. It doesn't matter about little or a lot because as long as the person that owns the weapon is problematic, you're going to have an issue.
Right?
So if you're going to
So
say that,
does that mean mass proliferation is somehow a good thing because people by and large are good and have positive intent with them?
well, I don't say mass proliferation or little. It all depends on who's receiving the poison or receiving the weapon. Because if you don't have such a thing to protect yourself with, what is the alternative? Just allowing someone else to use it. Is that right?
Generally, it's a police response. I said civilian gun ownership makes the area dangerous.
Yeah, so
Police aren't
now,
civilians.
yeah, so the option is allowing someone else to use it, which the same corruption could
Yes.
take place. So that again
It
points
could, you are right. So
so
how do you think we test for these things?
so
What
that
kind of things do you think we can look up to confirm this?
so that to the point would be the same issue is that it depends on the person using it because the person that's in law enforcement or civilian could abuse it.
That's right. They could. If all of these things are true.
So guns in of themselves are not the issue. It's the people. You can take away the guns, you're still going to have issue if you're still dealing with the same kind of people, regardless of
Okay, so
what you
let's say
give them.
we're dealing with a dangerous criminal, and the dangerous criminal wants to shoot someone. And in one situation they have a gun, and in another situation they don't have a gun. In the situation they don't have a gun, are they capable of shooting someone?
No, not when about a gun.
Which makes them more dangerous or less dangerous?
I don't know. What else do they have at their disposal? See what I mean?
That's a great
It
question.
goes
What
back
else?
to it goes
What
back
else? What else do people normally have?
it goes back
What
to
else
the
do people normally have access to?
it goes back to the person again. See if that person is problematic in and of
It doesn't just
himself.
go back to the person.
If
That
that
we're
person,
discussing how dangerous that person is. Is that person more dangerous with a gun or less dangerous without one?
I don't
Like,
know, because it depends on at the
this seems obvious.
disposal. Like I said, it depends on what is at that person's disposal, because that person in and of
What
him,
you're
that
implying,
person,
what you're
that person
implying is
in and
that
of
there
himself is
exists a
problematic.
tool that is more
That
dangerous than a
person
gun
in
for
and
them
of
to carry,
himself
right?
is problematic. That's what you got to deal with. It's that person. They don't lock up the gun. They lock up the person because that person is problematic. So this is why we have rules and regulations in place to vet people to use these type of things, because these things can be used for constructive purposes or destructive. So it's not the issue with the guns. You can take the guns out of the people's hands and they can just find anything else to use. You still haven't eliminated the problem. What do you think they were doing before a lot of guns were around?
Things that are less dangerous
They were still killing people, weren't they? Yeah, they were.
at the same rates.
I don't
At
know.
the same rates.
It's
Is it
it, it
is it
I,
just as easy to kill someone?
you worried about
Again, this
the
seems like a relevant question.
you worried about the rates instead of people murdering and killing people unjustly?
are deciding whether or not to give everybody guns, and hypothetically, it turns out that guns are more dangerous than, say, knives or poison, right? Then it would follow that removing the guns would be a logical step.
So those people can no longer kill people. Is that what you're saying?
No, that's exactly not what I said. What I said was one of them is a lot more effective at killing people than the other.
So
Do you
they can.
grant that or do you not grant that?
Sure, but do they still kill people?
At a lower rate?
So they will still kill people. So we'll still have the issue, right?
The issue is always going to exist. How much you can reduce it is the issue. Like that's what's in control. That's what the question is asking. How do you reduce the rates of these
Okay. Okay. All right. So
bad
you're
uses?
looking at you're looking at a reduction instead of solving the problem. You're just looking at a reduction, and you suggest by taking away guns. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And do you know for sure that nothing will just replace or anything will replace those guns for them people to use to still really do what they did before when they had the guns?
Replacing them with what? With things that are like guns or things that aren't like guns or what?
Anything that they could use to accomplish what they was doing before with the guns.
Okay, let's find out. How what is our how do we falsify a statement like this? How do we test for it? What information are we looking for? Because I will look it up. Murder rates with guns versus murder rates without guns.
No, it has nothing to do with murder rates. It's just if people
It has
are
exactly to do with murder rates.
if
If okay,
people
hypothetically, right? If everyone has knives and everyone
I'd
has
like to
guns,
finish
but
my
we take the
statement.
guns away and all the murders go away, doesn't that imply something?
If you were to take away guns right now, I'll put it this way, and we have people that are still are who they are in their mind, that they do what they do
Yep.
and they do all these crimes. You think they
Yep.
would not have another way to murder people?
A less effective way, possibly. If you take away the more effective option, that leaves people with less effective options. Correct.
I'm not sure because people are the issue, not the weapons. People can always people invented guns, right? So what else do you think they can try to invent to still make their objective?
I don't think what you're saying is consistent. Well, you've granted that option A can be more dangerous wielded in someone's hand than option B. If I give someone a plastic spoon versus a shotgun, I think we could agree that the shotgun is probably the more effective weapon, even if it's technically possible to kill someone with a plastic spoon, right?
I don't know what you mean by more effective. The person is still going to murder you either way. Are you trying to argue it's not as quick? Okay, it's not as quick. So what? Still a person out to murder me.
I don't think your argument. I don't think that follows. Somebody can be intent on killing you, but if they have a less effective weapon, then their attempts will be less effective. So they may not be able to. Maybe it's slower. Maybe they just can't do it at all. Do you understand that not being able to do it at all is a
I
possibility?
don't agree with that. Just because you don't have a gun doesn't mean you cannot kill me. That's the part that you're probably missing.
Right. So there's got to be a way to test for the difference in populations between having guns and not having guns when it comes to whether or not they want to be able to kill each other, right?
All I'm getting is from you is that without guns, it won't be as fast or as efficient. So what? You still have a batch of murderers or serial killers out there that'll still do what they do.
If we're looking at population totals, deaths resulting from those would be 50% reduced, correct?
Maul, are you seriously arguing that, like, just because there's a probability of murderers being out there, that means that we should, like, have no restrictions?
Kill all murderers.
Yeah, there are restrictions in place. There are restrictions, as I was saying before, about vetting people.
I think what Garrett's arguing for is that we expand those restrictions, right?
Expand the restrictions to what?
From what I can tell, it's guns.
No more guns.
This person hasn't even given me a number to what the reduction should be. How many less people should own guns at all?
Hold on. No, I already fucking specified this. I said taking poison is bad, so by principle, the less of it you have, the better. And you agree with that, right? Do you agree with the poison analogy? Someone has an AK-47, they walk into my house. What am I supposed to do? If you take away my guns, how can I defend myself?
Yeah, guns.
The poison analogy.
What I said to that that's guns are neutral. You couldn't give me a number. You couldn't give me a number.
Hold on, no, that's you're dodging the fucking question with that.
My response was that guns are neutral. That was my response to that.
What does that mean? Wait, that's not even an argument. That's just an assertion.
Stop. This is a linear fucking argument. I bring up the fact that you should,
guns are neutral, is what I said.
And you say you're not providing a number. To justify the reason I'm not giving you a number is following this question, right? I'm providing a principle that says less is better. And I'm using the analogy here that the less poison you drink, the better. And I shouldn't be prescribing you a minimum amount of poison to drink.
But me owning a gun is not poisonous. Does that make sense?
That's not the analogy, though. The analogy is that less people will die if there's less guns. Just like if you have less poison in your body, you're less likely to die.
I don't know if less guns, less people will die. Less guns don't mean less murderers.
Well, we can look at statistics. Thankfully, we can look at statistics on a per country basis and see that.
I think we should all have guns, and I think everyone should shoot each other in the face. It's pretty brutal, man. You can tell society.
Argument doesn't work though because it's not a consistent parallel.
My argument always works. I'm the greatest man alive.
Cool. You're not seeing what Maul's trying to say is that gun can be used for positive and negative, whereas a poison is always a negative. So even if you try to use these like super obscure situations where you kind of use poison for good, you're still using it as a negative to do good.
Or if I would poison you,
like
that's circular.
Or something, you know, like right?
How do we poison you and stop you from talking? Okay.
Like we could probably conceive of positive things to do with poison. And then the second part, they still both kill people. The analogy is that they both kill people. The second part, though, that is really unfortunate here is the standard you're giving here is just some abstract less is better without actually defining it, and you're expecting Maul to somehow argue against that. Yeah, no, but we're not supposed to define a single number.
Wait a second. How is this fucking abstract not understood? You're refuting the principle that less is worse and like less is better, right? That principle tracks, right?
Wait, poster. Do you think like when you're about to like gear up for war, if someone invaded your country, you'd be like, well, can you give me an exact number of the people that need to die? Well, now listen, here's the issue. Because here's what you guys are doing. You're not even listening to Maul's counter argument. Because you're saying less is more. Yes, he is. You're not even listening to it. No, do you understand how an argument works? It's not just assertions. Well, I'm hearing both sides, and I'm seeing what's happening. So, like, maybe I have an idea. Really?
The threshold argument doesn't make any sense if the principle is less is better. Does that make sense? Is what I'm saying making sense?
Explain it?
Please.
Try to explain it. You've set an arbitrary, abstract threshold to how this would work. What you're going to do now is you're going to pick and choose.
When did I do that?
Want to listen and let me explain?
You just told me that I set a threshold.
Did.
When did I do that? I said less is better. Less isn't a threshold.
Threshold. That's a threshold right away. That means that you want at least one gun off the street, but you haven't even determined which one that is.
Right.
What the fuck? Less is better. One gun off would reduce it by X amount. Two guns off would reduce it by X amount.
Is it Maul's gun that he uses to protect his house? Or or someone else's gun that they go use to shoot up a school. You have to
I think it means. Hold on. Have I specified?
Unspecified thing here. No, he didn't specify on purpose. He's talking about guns in general. It's just some arbitrary like defending your house. I think he means that like we shouldn't have guns or less guns are better. Like most countries in the world do. Any gun.
Civilian gun ownership.
Yes.
If you're describing a situation like a farmer defending his livestock from foxes, is that a civilian? Yes. Does he have a gun? Yes. Therefore, it meets the criteria of a civilian owning a gun, right?
Do you believe in private property?
Yes.
Do you believe people should be allowed to protect their private property?
Yes.
You believe people should be allowed to have weapons to protect their private property if other people have weapons?
No.
How should they protect their property if they don't have weapons?
You can protect your property from coyotes with a gun if you live in the fucking farm wild somewhere. If you're in a urban metro fucking area where you're not fighting coyotes, you're holding a weapon to fight other people. That's not the situation you should be carrying a gun. That's what police are for.
When it comes down to
a line of like negative externalities, right? Because the externalities that come from gun ownership far outweigh the positives of the rare case you have to defend your home. Especially because if there's no guns for the civilian population, there's not going to be any people with guns robbing your home under like a purely hypothetical scenario. Right?
Well,
also just proved Paul's point, unfortunately.
Well, what it comes down to, you're arguing, because I got you to admit that you would rather have all the guns,
okay, hold on, wait,
all the guns removed.
I'm gonna.
You would like to have all the guns removed.
I need to add to this, right? I need to follow up this example, right? Even if you have farmers out on a farmstead, the argument still follows that if you give all of the farmers guns to defend their fucking livestock, that area still becomes more dangerous because now everyone has a gun.
Yeah, there's negative externalities to it, right? Like.
Yeah, you like to argue that all the guns are removed, and then what's the alternative? The people relying on someone else using a gun, so they can use something.
Yes.
So they can use something that's poisonous, but the civilian is not able to use it in the same manner?
Yes. Do you think, I'm curious, like, when countries have nukes, are you like, that goes against private property ownership because I can't own a nuke, and the state can? That's so hypocritical. Or when they have tanks that, like, drive through, like, Middle Eastern streets, do you think the same thing? Because those are both arms that the state can use.
Yeah, the issue is not with removing guns. The issue has always been with people. And if you take one, two guns
so again,
off the street,
answer my question?
that the person, if you take one or two guns off the street or more or whatever, you're not removing murderers off the street. You're not getting to the issue. So leave the guns where they are. So you have the just people that can still protect themselves from no murderers.
You're not removing people who are likely to murder. You're removing the likeliness that they will be able to complete a murder, right?
They can still murder with or without a gun. Like I tell all of you, I'll tell all of you that. You still have a murderer. You think you don't have a murderer without a gun?
Sure,
what were they doing before they were murdering? Before they had guns, rather.
Do you think the likelihood of me being able to murder someone with a knife versus a gun, which one do you think is more, which one do you think is more conceivable of like me killing a mass killing or me committing a mass killing?
I don't know.
If I have one knife versus like an assault rifle or a shotgun or even a pistol. You don't know.
Which one? So let me get the. Let me get the clarity of your question.
I just go and like shoot a bunch of fucking children.
Let me get the clarity of your question.
The knife is more effective somehow.
Let me get the clarity of your question.
Yeah.
So if you're saying that a gun is more efficient, sure, that's not the debate. This person is arguing that we solved the issue. This person is arguing that we solved the issue by just removing all guns, basically. He couldn't even give me a number. So he really would like to just have all, he really would just like have all the guns removed and then allow someone else to use guns in the same manner which the public can use guns.
So yes, sure, if you want to talk about all gun-related deaths that the civilian population engages in, if you quite literally were to take away all of their guns, there would be no more gun-related deaths insofar as they're not getting them illegally, right?
No more gun-related deaths. So
By civilian on civilian populations, insofar as like we're excluding illegal markets. You could include illegal markets, but either way, the likelihood of you getting shot is still like exponentially less likely, and you getting harmed or involved in a mass shooting is much less likely compared to the current state that America has, for instance, in which there's lots of guns.
okay, so you relieve the problem of people shooting people. If
Yep. By
that's
taking
all
away
you
their
want to
means to shoot
say,
people.
sure.
Sure, yeah. And what's your rebuttal to that? I guess.
That's all you're doing is just relieving the issue of shooting people.
Yeah, sure,
but you just conceded 5 seconds ago that guns are more harmful. So if we've reduced the harm, then we've reduced the deaths on average, right?
Yeah.
I don't know that. You just relieving the issue of shooting people. You act like murderers won't exist. You act like murderers won't exist if you remove guns.
They're more effective and more efficient at killing. Wait, you said more. You said that the the gun versus a knife, the gun would be more effective at killing. Did you not?
I didn't say effective. I said more efficient, maybe. I could still kill you with
Okay,
a
fine.
knife.
Efficient at killing.
I could still kill you
Sure,
with a
but
knife,
hypothetically,
especially
you're
if I'm
killing me
good
with a
at it.
knife. If we were to like measure probabilities of you killing me with a knife versus a gun, it's much less likely that you're going to be able to kill me with a gun or I mean a knife.
I can kill you good with a knife. Don't underestimate somebody with a knife in their hand.
I'm not underestimating you with a knife. I'm saying
Good.
it's less
That's good.
likely.
That's good.
Yeah, so user, we're talking about removing as many guns as possible to ensure that there's going to be like less likelihood of us having to defend ourselves with a gun, right? So if we were to reduce the overall number of gun ownership by like 99%, then there would be less guns on the market and on civilian hands, which would mean that there would be less guns civilians could own, which would mean there's be less guns for civilians to be able to like take and shoot people with or whatever. So there'd be a much lower probability of you ever having to deal with a situation in which you're shot, which is more beneficial.
I think we can. Does anyone disagree with the fact that if we have guns, it's better for America than if we don't?
Yeah, I do. I think Harris does too.
You think that it would be better for everyone to have guns than for nobody to have guns?
I think I just answered that.
Did you just mishear? I think you just misheard him. I like less guns. That's my stance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so leave it to someone else to use the guns, right?
I have a new analogy. There's a road toll. There's a road toll every year. People die in car crashes all the time. So let's say hypothetically we had this country that made driving places illegal and everybody just had to walk places. Would the road toll dramatically diminish from this law being put in place? Or hypothetically, would people just find another way to, like, I don't know, run really fast into walls and crash themselves and die somehow?
If you're removing something for something, make it impossible to happen, it wouldn't
Well, let
happen
him
that
answer.
way.
How would you even get rid of?
Oh, what did you say? Let him answer.
I said if you're removing a factor or element for something to happen that way, it probably or impossible to happen that way.
Okay, so let me follow this up. In that situation, would there be some other abstract way that people would continue to somehow die in car crashes despite there being no cars? Do you think an equivalent number of deaths would be spawned out of somewhere, or would this make the area safer?
I don't know.
You don't know.
You don't know,
Come
bro.
on, be honest, bro.
I don't know. I mean,
I'll give you another opportunity to answer
there's
this
all
question.
different kind of
Think
ways
about it
people
real
leave
hard
this planet. But yeah, people are the problem. But you're saying get rid of all the guns and let somebody else use them.
He's not asking you if people are the problem or not. He's asking you, is there a lower probability, if a probability at all, that you're going to die in a car accident if we were to have tolls to the point where no one drives a car?
More things similar to
So are you saying that nobody drives a car any longer? Then that we don't have deaths by car fatalities by a car?
nuance. I'm following that up with a little bit more nuance. I'm asking if there's some other abstract way that people would continue to die spontaneously.
Are you saying if
like,
there
is that how reality and society works? Do people
are
just
you saying
spontaneously
that
die,
if
or do things cause them to die?
are you saying that if we no longer or have access to cars, there's no more fatalities with cars? Is that what you're asking?
Again, I'm adding a little bit more nuance to this because I'm trying to capture the essence of my argument here. If you remove all the cars, you remove all the road fatalities. I'm asking you if there is some other conceivable way that something replaces the road toll and people spontaneously keep dying despite everybody now walking instead of getting into car crashes. Like, do they walk too fast into walls, or is that just not realistic?
I'll just put it this way. Very simple. If there is no more access to cars,
yes,
then it's impossible to have a fatality with a car. Just like that.
Right. So how does that answer to the nuance? Like, do people spontaneously still die at the same rate, or is the area safer?
They can die by any other things, whatever else there is that they would die from. That's why I say I don't know.
So, if we have some, okay, I'll re-ask this with an even more direct example. Are people more likely to die while bombs are actively being dropped on their neighborhood, or less likely to die, or you don't know?
They're more likely if bombs are being dropped on somebody's neighborhood, they're more likely to be die. They're more likely to die. Are you speaking while I'm speaking?
I'm glad you're finally understanding the point and able to
I haven't even finished my statement. You can't even be
really
quiet for that.
which is dangerous things cause people to die.
I haven't even finished my statement, sir.
You have no argument here, though, because all you said with your argument is that we should take cars away from people.
As I was saying, if somebody is walking outside their house and their bombs are being dropped, then constantly, then more likely they're going to get hit with a bomb. That's going to be their fatality over anything else that could have happened to them that day or that week or anything else. All you're doing is eliminating one thing for them to die by, which is bombs, cars, or guns.
Yes, which tells you what. Okay, we now have established a baseline idea of something that is more dangerous versus less dangerous.
So basically, you're saying is we remove one element out of the equation, which should include the police too, because if they have guns, there's still possible access. So if we remove guns out of the reality, if we remove guns out of the reality, you're saying that's one less thing that we can die by. So therefore, we are one variable safer, because that one variable doesn't exist.
No, you've just twisted my argument. The mass proliferation of civilian gun ownership makes an area more dangerous than it is protected.
Let me put it this way. If guns no longer existed at all, would you agree that that's one less factor that a human person can have danger with?
Possibly, yeah.
Possibly. Why only possibly?
That is one less factor that a human person can have danger with. Yes, I'll answer yes to that.
Why did you say possibly at first?
Because my argument's taking into consideration the dynamic between civilian and non-civilian populations, like police forces.
Yeah, I can understand.
If police lose their ability to enact their fucking role in society, which is to protect society, then if you have an equal playing field versus the non-equal playing field, which is this side that I am arguing for, then you could make an area more dangerous by equalizing that by functionally stripping the police of their ability to police.
Yeah, I can understand possibly that we could be one variable safer. I would argue possibly because I would be honest and say I don't know. How do I know another? How do I know another variable will not be an advent somewhere in the future?
I can flip this argument slightly. If you didn't have any weapons whatsoever, this is just a hypothetical, and you prefer that they defend you with a gun or with their fists?
I don't think I have a preference. As long as I know they can defend me, what would it matter? If they
Well,
if
if they
they
have a
can
gun,
def,
they'd
if
be
they can
more
defend
effective with
me,
their fists,
if
right?
they could defend me, period. If I knew that, I don't think it would matter.
How else are you gonna know it? Like, you have to increase their odds somehow, right?
If they could use a gun, then I could use one,
Yep.
and it wouldn't be any
That's
more.
not what the
It
that's not
wouldn't
what the
be any more.
hypothetical says. The hypothetical is
It wouldn't
asking
even be
if you
more
would prefer a
hazardous
police
than they
officer to
use it
defend
than
you
I
with a gun
use
than
it.
with their fists.
It wouldn't be more hazardous from them using it and then if I use it. And if you have multiple civilians out here that
That's you're dodging the
if
question.
you have,
Dodging the
well,
question
I already
hardcore.
said I don't know. Maybe you just didn't hear me. I already said that.
Yeah, no, Maul's brain died.
So
He
now
actually
I'm moving to the
have no
next point.
arguments.
That if civilians, multiple civilians, can use their guns, just like the police that you call on, that you would have them transfer that right to for them to use it, then I don't see that much being an issue either. All you're saying is remove or decrease the guns and let someone else use it.
Yes, because that's what works.
Yeah, what would the argument against that be?
I could use it just as well as that policeman. There's no issue.
That's not what we asked. What would the argument against that be?
That is the argument. I can use it just as well as the policeman can.
Okay, so you're an argument for potential that you potentially have the ability to use it just as well as a police officer.
I'm saying that if this person is arguing that he wants someone else to use it in a constructive manner, in a protective manner, so can any civilian that's been vetted the same way that policeman has.
Well, they aren't vetted the same way for starters, and they don't have the same oversight.
If you
There's
were vetted
investigative body
in the
called
same way,
internal affairs,
you'd just be
which
called a police
actually,
officer.
yeah, exactly. So there's also that, but also you have to have an investigative body for police officers because they have the ability to kill other people. So it's not even close to the same.
There's also several layers of relevant bureaucratic process that tells you if a police officer does something wrong, then those channels exist. Where in a civilian setting, they wouldn't. But I don't feel like I need to go into all of those avenues to get a basic point across.
Have you ever had a conversation with Mom before? Curious. I'm just kind of curious.
No.
Okay. That's what it's not. You're not being bad. It's just he's really bad at having these kinds of combos.
Okay, I can work those things out for myself if that's the case.
No, I know. I just to give you a heads up for like future discussion with him.
That doesn't. It just sounds like poison to the well. I don't need that shit.
I know it sounds like that, but again, it's like because you have.
Yeah, you're just gonna tell me the same thing again. You're just gonna tell me the same thing again.
No, but you'll find out soon enough for yourself. You'll see.
I think person is just harassing me.
Okay, hold on. I'm gonna go back to these foundations of the argument. We can understand what the difference between a safer area and a more dangerous area is, and the example for this is if there's bombs actively being dropped on a neighborhood versus not. And you seem to agree with me that the one with the bombs being dropped on the neighborhood is more dangerous, because we can understand what the danger is and why it's dangerous.
Me dropping bombs and owning guns is not the same. Like I can walk into a neighborhood.
I'm not going that far yet. I'm not immediately connecting the points here. That is eventually where the argument leads, but we haven't got there logically. I'm just trying to understand if you understand what danger is.
That's my response, man. They're not the same, so you might as well forget that drop the bombs thing. If you can, I'll walk into a neighborhood.
Hold on, if you can't concede the difference between something that is more dangerous and less dangerous, why are you trying to have this debate?
Cause I took you up on your challenge, and so far it seems like
Why?
you're
I asked you
making
why.
you're making I'm proving your false equivalency. That's why. Dropping bombs and holding guns ain't the same thing.
None of
You
that was
you
said,
you
but
can.
I'm asking
Well,
why
first,
you are taking the
I don't want to
position
hear
if
no
you
more about
can't
dropping
define
the
what's dangerous.
bombs. I don't want to hear no more about dropping the
Do
bombs.
we? Why are you taking a counter position on this topic if you cannot define something that is more dangerous or less dangerous?
So, like I said, dropping the bombs is not the same as
That's not
people
answering my fucking question.
ownership gun,
Answer the
because this is
question.
the response you're gonna get anyway.
Okay, I'll understand that you're incapable of answering the most fundamental or like basic question about the topic. So
this is really difficult to have a conversation with.
okay,
So if I walk into a neighborhood,
is the topic. I'm gonna link it. I'm gonna assume that because you can't
I walk into a neighborhood with
explain
people
why you're
fully own
why
guns,
you're
and all of those civilians in that neighborhood, you're arguing because they all own guns. That's a more dangerous neighborhood. But each one of them civilians just protecting their property. But that's a more dangerous neighborhood.
yes. I also said that driving cars makes an area more dangerous.
Even if none of those cars even if none of those cars got into an accident or fatality in that area.
Yes, exactly. Accidents and fatalities exist. They're danger.
Okay, so it's all neutral.
I don't feel like I need to defend my point anymore uh, if you can't substantiate a counterposition. You're not providing a counterposition. You're just reasserting your own point. It's unrelated to the topic that I have posted. The topic that I have posted is about danger versus protection, and that's not what you're arguing about. That's that your counterpoint does not counter the topic in any way. It's not related to it.
So you say people owning guns is really dangerous.
Hey, Mom,
That's what the statistics seem to suggest.
Mom, why would you want to own a gun?
For protection, self-defense.
Right. And why do guns result in protection or self-defense? Like, what do they stop?
It's because it makes you equal to others.
Yeah, I own a gun for self. I own a gun for self-protection and self-defense.
Yeah. And what does it defend you from? What does it stop?
Anything that's trying to harm me, particularly a person that's trying to harm me.
Right? Yeah, like a person. And why does a gun do that? What part of the gun? Like, why is just owning the gun? Why does it do that?
I'm gonna just say it like this: I use the gun for protection. The gun can stop the aggressor or the assailant. The gun can kill or stop or disable the assailant or aggressor from attacking me or anybody else.
Yeah, and in some cases, even just a threat of a gun, right, does that, right?
Even a what?
Even just like the threat of a gun, like you would just see a gun, right?
I don't get your question. What is your question?
What part of my question don't you understand? I asked what part of a gun stops an assailant or prevents an assailant. Why would you want to own a gun for that? Like, what does it do for you?
I just said it like a dozen times.
So, are you saying it kills people? Is that what you're saying?
I just said that. Did you all hear me?
Right. So, would you say would you also say that like it would pose a danger to someone who might harm you? So, would you also say it like poses a danger to someone who might harm you, and that's why owning a gun is that good for self-defense because it poses a danger to someone who might harm you?
Sure.
Does it also pose a danger to someone who might harm you? And that's
Sure.
why owning a gun might be
Sure.
good for self-defense because it poses a danger to someone who might harm you.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So guns are dangerous. Right. That's right. That's like that would make sense with what you just said, what we agreed on.
Are you asking are guns dangerous?
Yeah. Do they pose a danger to
Yeah,
someone who might
they
harm
can
you?
they can be dangerous when you don't use them properly.
Yeah, but they're also dangerous when you do use them properly against someone who might harm you, right? That's why we have.
I mean, it depends on how you look at it. I mean, it's not dangerous.
It's
It's not dangerous for me and somebody I'm protecting. That was very
yeah, but it's
protecting
dangerous.
for
It's
for
dangerous
us.
to someone else, right?
That's how you look at it, sure.
Yeah. So guns are designed to pose a danger to someone else, right? If you get them for self-defense.
Yeah, someone else's danger can be my protection, sure.
All right. So we agree that in the equation of danger, guns only result in danger, right? A positive or more danger, right?
Yeah, a danger for my protection, sure.
Yeah. So you can make an equation and say there's more protection for you than danger for other people. The only issue is there's not a single statistic that bears this out, right? So most gun deaths are a suicide just in general. So it feels like that's just causing danger to the owner themselves. And then we have a bunch of handgun deaths, and this is mostly because of gangs and like violent crimes and stuff like that, which is why it's illegal to own a handgun if you're 21 because they're easier to conceal, and also because they're used a lot. They're used a lot in illegal crimes. Um, Violent crimes. I think the biggest one is just gang crimes, right? That's where the most common ones, and then also they're really easy to like because they're easier to conceal. They're easier to illegally sell, purchase, all of this because you don't have to worry about manufacturing and all that kind of stuff, right? So just you can make the case that there's less danger. There's a sum or net less danger by owning a gun. There's just not a single statistic that bears that out in reality.
I
A
use a
statistic that
gun
does what?
or another person uses a
Like that?
gun, like a police person. We both are vetted, so we're able to use that gun in the way it should be used, which is normally to protect and defend ourselves or others.
Yeah. So again, like I said, you can make an argument that the protection outweighs the danger, but there's not a single statistic that agrees with that.
If hold on, if that was the case,
Problem is, like
hold on.
people count their numbers really weird. Like when you're counting deaths, you need to count like Stalin, like
How much? How
politically
much?
purging people, like the Nazis politically purging people.
I
Like
have a
there's a
really,
lot more that goes into
I have a cool
a
question
total
here.
state and a limited state kind of question.
Let's say you've
Like
got
when you take guns away from people, it's like more like a total state.
you've got a bunch of police who are vetted and then they get given guns. And you've got a bunch of civilians who are vetted and then got given guns. So based on that vague assumption that these are similar, should we also then assume that people kill other people with guns at the same rate that police kill other police with guns?
I don't know
Or is
nothing
there
about the.
some
I
kind
don't
of
know nothing
difference?
about the rates. If you have an
Yeah, we
issue
can.
because the rate is higher, is problematic with civilians, maybe you got to take it up with the vetting system. Maybe the vetting system is screwed up.